Imagine this. You're standing at a crossroads feeling that pull to reach out, to explain, to prove your worth. You're there wanting to be seen, to be valued, pouring out your energy in texts and calls, just hoping to make a lasting impact. But whether it's a new spark or a familiar love drifting away, you find yourself wanting to bridge the gap, to keep them close. But pause for a moment. What if the secret isn't in doing more, but in doing less? What if, instead of chasing connection, you let it find you by stepping back and holding your ground? The truth is, the more you strive to validate yourself in their eyes, the further you drift from your own worth. Instead of fueling their interest, you're feeding their ego and in the process, losing touch with your own strength. Number 1, silence is power. Consider this: you've been striving to be heard, thinking that if you explain just a little more, if you try a little harder, you'll bridge the gap. But take a moment to reflect, has it ever truly worked? More often than not, the harder you try to reach them with words, the further they seem to slip away. Here's the paradox. It's not your words that pull them closer, it's your silence. We've been conditioned to believe that constant communication equals closeness, that explaining and reaffirming will secure appreciation. But here lies the deeper truth. The more you chase, the more you overextend. The more you explain, the more predictable you become, and predictability can erode value. In offering everything freely, you deny them the weight of your absence. The true allure lies in silence. Picture this. Perhaps you're interested in someone new, but instead of initiating every interaction, you allow space for them to come to you. Or maybe you're noticing a growing distance with your partner, and rather than filling the void with messages, you embrace quiet. What happens in that space? Suddenly they're the ones wondering, questioning, feeling the echo of your absence. In that silence, their sense of control wavers and they begin to feel the impact of what's missing. Silence is a profound instrument, a shield that reclaims your strength and dignity. As Epictetus once observed, silence is safer than speech. In stopping the endless flow of words, you halt the surrender of your power. You regain control over yourself and allow them the space to realize your worth in your absence, not in your constant presence. Now here's the challenge I pose to you. Stop explaining. Stop justifying. Embrace the silence. So let them experience the shift in energy. Feel free to like this video if you're ready to start reclaiming your worth through quiet confidence. Drop a silence is powerful in the comments below if you're ready to step into the strength of holding your own ground. But let's be clear, silence alone is not the entire answer. It's not a simple matter of going quiet and waiting for someone to come running back. No wise individual would simply withdraw, waiting passively. Silence is most effective when wielded with intent, not as a passive game, but as a purposeful expression of confidence. We're about to explore the art of using silence strategically, letting it echo louder than words ever could. And to guide us, we'll delve into 7 timeless Stoic teachings, ancient principles that will shift how you approach relationships. These are not mere tactics of silence, but lessons in how to pause purposefully, creating space that demands attention and leaves an enduring impact. But if you're ready to transform how you interact, if you're prepared to embrace a calm, assured presence, hit the like button and prepare to journey deeper. Together we'll explore how these Stoic principles can not only reveal your true worth to others, but deepen your own sense of self. So here we go. The first lesson: silence in the face of rejection or disinterest. This is a difficult but potent beginning. Reflect on this: when rejection or disinterest surfaces, especially from someone you're drawn to, what's your immediate impulse? For most, it's to act right away. There's a drive to fix things, to explain, or worse, to try even harder to win them over. But here's the misstep: every word you offer, every action you take to sway their opinion, serves only one purpose: nurturing their ego. And in that process, you inadvertently diminish your own value. Consider what happens when you sense them pulling away. Perhaps you've been talking to someone new, and initially it seems promising. But suddenly the response times lengthen and the interest wanes. Before long, disinterest becomes an unspoken truth. In these moments, most people panic. They think, maybe if I reach out again, if I do something, I can win back their attention. But here's where true wisdom steps in. Drawn from Stoic philosophy, you cannot control others. You can only control your response. When rejection or disinterest arises, the worst move is to chase. Why? Because it sends a very explicit message. I need your validation. Nothing diminishes your strength faster than revealing that your sense of worth is tethered to their approval. Stoicism teaches that authentic strength is internal, untouched by external opinion. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." So what do you do when faced with rejection? You go silent. You do absolutely nothing. No texts, no calls, no lengthy explanations or emotional pleas. You simply withdraw. Silence may feel like defeat, as though you're letting them slip away. But here's a deeper truth. Silence, in this context, is your greatest power move. When you choose silence, something profound happens. You stop feeding their ego. They've made a decision, or they believe they have, and they're waiting for you to chase. By withholding the expected reaction, you create a sense of ambiguity, leaving them uncertain. So begin to question why you didn't fight, why you didn't cling, why there was no attempt to explain yourself. In that quiet, they're left only with their thoughts, and slowly the power dynamic shifts. You've reclaimed control without a single word. Yet silence isn't merely a strategy to puzzle them or provoke doubt. It's a safeguard for your own dignity and self-worth. Stoicism champions emotional resilience, the strength to remain unshaken by external events. Rejection isn't a mirror of your value. It reflects only their current preferences, which are as transient as the tide. In choosing silence, you preserve your composure, your integrity, your self-respect. You signal that your identity is not bound to their acceptance. Picture this: you've been on a few dates, the connection felt genuine, and then without warning, they start to pull away. Texts become sparse, the energy feels distant. What do most people do? They panic. They send more messages asking what went wrong. They might even ask for reassurance, saying something like, "Is everything okay? Did I do something wrong?" This approach, while well-meaning, often reads as desperation to the other person. It reinforces that you're seeking validation from them. Silence, however, sends a different message, one of self-assurance, grounded in strength, communicating that you don't need to be chosen to feel whole. Desperation is indeed the swiftest way to extinguish attraction. Now let's embrace the Stoic approach. Do you notice their interest fading? So you withdraw, not with explanations or grand gestures, but with quiet resolve. This silence speaks volumes. It declares, "I respect myself enough not to chase someone whose interest is wavering." It conveys that you're master of your emotions, unmoved by the whims of another. Here's a crucial insight: when someone pulls away, it's often a test whether they realize it or not. They may want to see how much power they hold, how far you go to capture their attention. But in responding with silence, you disrupt this unspoken power play. You make it clear that you're not participating, prompting them to reconsider. They begin to question their decision to pull away, and this doubt is compelling. The silence in this case doesn't merely shield you, it can even draw them back. Why? Because in a world of people vying for their attention, you've chosen to stand apart, rooted in silence. You've become the exception to the rule, radiating self-assurance and resilience. This quiet confidence unsettles them, makes them wonder what they might be missing, and shifts the dynamic entirely. But is silence a guarantee they'll return? No, and that's not the goal. The purpose of silence is to preserve your dignity and strength, regardless of the outcome. You're refusing to let another's fleeting interest dictate your worth. You're setting your own terms. This is the essence of Stoic strength. So the next time you feel the sting of rejection, remember, silence is your most profound ally. It's not surrender, it's the choice to guard your self-worth, to stand firm in your resilience. Let them feel the absence, let them ponder your silence, and watch how the balance subtly shifts. In the end, this isn't about making them return, it's about proving to yourself that you're whole without the need to chase anyone. That's the true power of silence. So affirm this: silence is powerful. And whenever you feel the pull to chase, explain, or fix things, pause. True strength lies not in reaction, but in mastery of oneself and letting silence communicate in your stead. Silence upholds your dignity, magnifies your worth, and redefines the interaction in your favor. When they expect words and receive silence, your absence speaks the loudest. Let them feel that weight, and let them recognize your value in its wake. Number 2, let silence speak when they expect a response. Now let's move to principle 2. Let silence speak when they expect a reaction. This is among the most transformative actions you can take in any relationship. Imagine a moment when someone says something cutting, perhaps trying to provoke you. They're expecting a response, maybe for you to defend, apologize, or engage, but instead you choose silence. You stay silent. Why is this so impactful? Because people are conditioned to expect a response. But when they press your buttons, they're seeking an emotional reaction, a signal that they hold sway over your feelings. But when you respond with silence, you strip away that power. You show that you, not they, are the master of your emotions. This silence speaks volumes, louder than any retort ever could. It says, I won't give you the satisfaction of seeing me react. Consider a familiar situation. You're in a heated discussion, maybe with a partner or someone you care about. They hurl a cutting remark intended to provoke. Most would instantly retaliate, defending themselves or firing back. But instead you opt for silence. You breathe, you let the moment pass, and refrain from words. This silence forces them to face their own behavior, to sit in the unease of your non-reaction. They're left wondering why you didn't respond, uneasy in the sudden unpredictability. In that pause, the power dynamic shifts. You've demonstrated that you cannot be so easily swayed, that your emotions aren't theirs to manipulate. Silence, too, grants a space for introspection. When you choose not to react, you allow them time to reflect on their own words. And they might come to realize they were out of line, that their actions were rash. Silence makes them sit with the weight of their behavior, often leading them to reconsider. In Stoic thought, this is essential: mastering one's reactions by resisting the urge to respond impulsively, by choosing silence over emotional outbursts. Take control over yourself. You aren't letting the situation govern you, and this is a powerful stance, especially in relationships. It signifies maturity, strength, and self-respect. So the next time someone aims to provoke you, remember this: silence is your strongest response. When they expect you to engage, to defend, or to retaliate, choose silence. Let them wonder, let them reflect, and let your silence speak. That is where your strength truly lies. Number 3, use silence to make them miss you. Let's explore the art of using silence to create longing. This is one of the most subtle, yet transformative moves in any relationship. Whether you're at the start of a connection or looking to rekindle a spark with someone who's grown distant, silence, when used thoughtfully, can redefine the dynamics entirely. It's the antithesis of chasing, of over-communicating, and it offers the space needed for them to understand the value of your presence. Here's the truth: when you're always available, constantly texting, reaching out, and showing up, they come to take you for granted. But your attention becomes a constant, something they feel they can access at any time. But when you step back, when you allow silence to replace the familiar sound of your voice or the comfort of your attention, they start to feel that void. They begin to sense that something significant is missing. Reflect on a time when you've truly missed someone. It wasn't because they were perpetually present or always seeking your attention. It was because there was a quiet space for you to recognize the unique essence they brought to your life. In their absence, you came to realize what they truly meant to you. This is the power of silence. It grants others the gift of missing you, allowing them to rediscover your worth on their own terms. The same principle applies here. Silence creates the space for them to feel the emptiness left by your absence and question why you aren't sewing them like everyone else. Imagine you've been speaking with someone for a while, but things have started to cool down. Maybe their responses are slower, or the initial excitement has started to fade. Most people feeling this shift would instinctively reach out more, send extra messages, or ask what's wrong. But this is precisely where silence becomes your most potent tool. Instead of trying harder, you retreat. You stop initiating conversations, allowing silence to convey what words would only complicate. So at first, this may feel uncomfortable, as if doing nothing is counterintuitive when it seems action is needed. But therein lies the brilliance of silence. It's not a passive approach, it's a conscious choice. Silence grants them the room to miss you, to understand that your attention isn't something to be assumed or expected. Slowly, they become aware of the lack of your messages, the absence of your calls, and curiosity begins to build. Why aren't they reaching out? Did I do something wrong? Have they moved on? These questions begin to fill the silence you've left, inviting them to reflect on your presence in a way they hadn't before. Yet silence isn't solely about inspiring them to miss you, it's also about reinforcing your worth. When you're perpetually available, you send a message that your time and come easily, reducing their perceived value. But when you withdraw, when your presence becomes something they must earn or appreciate, you remind them of your unique value. They start to yearn for the attention you no longer offer so freely, and this shift alters the balance of connection. Silence creates tension, and tension is the cradle of attraction. In a world full of voices vying for attention, the individual who understands the power of silence stands apart. It's a quiet assertion of control, a subtle allure that hints at depth. Silence reveals that you're not in need, that your self-worth isn't tied to their validation, and that you possess the emotional fortitude to step back when it matters most. Stoic philosophy emphasizes that our actions should be driven not by desire, but by self-discipline. When you employ silence wisely, you exhibit a self-discipline that most lack. You communicate that you don't need to chase attention as you're self-assured enough to let it gravitate toward you naturally. So when you feel the impulse to do something to win them over, remember this: sometimes the most profound action is to do nothing at all. Allow silence to work its subtle magic. Let them experience the void of your presence, and in that stillness, they'll begin to recognize your true value. Number 4, silence in setting boundaries. Now let's explore the power of silence when establishing boundaries, a vital yet often underestimated aspect of any relationship. Setting boundaries is essential for sustaining respect and equilibrium, regardless of whether the relationship is new or long-standing. However, many stumble by over-explaining their boundaries, feeling compelled to justify, defend, or soften their stance. But real strength comes from stating your boundary with clarity, then allowing silence to solidify it. Consider a situation where someone is pressing you beyond your comfort zone. Perhaps they're asking too much of your time, your energy, or your emotional reserves. You've already clarified your boundaries once, but they continue to test them. Many people feel compelled to explain why they're saying no, to justify why they can't extend themselves further. Yet here's the reality: the more you explain, the more you dilute the strength of your boundary. Setting a boundary doesn't demand justification. In fact, over-explaining often signals that the boundary may be flexible, inviting negotiation or compromise. But when you establish your boundary firmly and reinforce it with silence, you communicate a clear, resolute message. This is where I stand, and it needs no justification. Consider this example: someone persistently asks you for a favor, a request that saps your energy or attention beyond what you're willing to give. Instead of saying, "I'm really tired, I have so much going on, I wish I could help," but simply respond with, "I'm not available for that." And then silence. No further explanation is needed. This silence underscores your boundary. It signals a quiet confidence in your decision and leaves no room for negotiation. The other person will feel the weight of that silence and be compelled to respect the line you've drawn. It may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to explaining yourself or cushioning others from the impact of your decisions. But this silence after setting a boundary is a testament to self-respect and emotional maturity. Another essential aspect of silence in boundary setting is that it allows the other person to absorb your decision. When you flood the interaction with explanations, they might focus on your reasons, searching for loopholes or ways to sway you. However, when you maintain silence, they are left to consider the boundary itself. The silence offers no room for debate. In Stoic philosophy, we're taught that controlling our responses is essential to preserving inner peace. Silence here serves as a quiet assertion of your values without needing validation. You're not seeking approval or trying to persuade, you're simply holding your ground. So the next time you set a boundary, state it concisely and let silence do the rest. Allow them to sense the steadiness of your stance and the depth of your self-respect. Silence in this context becomes your most powerful ally. Number 5. Silence as a tool of mystery. Silence is among the most potent tools for creating mystery in relationships. People are naturally drawn to what they don't fully understand, and silence is the ideal way to cultivate intrigue. When you use silence to build mystery, you're not just withholding words, you're crafting an aura of unpredictability that leaves them wanting more. Consider this in the early stages of getting to know someone. If you're constantly sharing every detail, expressing every thought, feeling, and intention, you leave nothing to the imagination. The thrill fades because there's no mystery left. When you're too transparent too quickly, you lose the lure of the unknown. But when you hold back, allowing silence to fill certain spaces, you create a compelling tension. It leaves them wondering about you, your thoughts, your feelings, and what's going on beneath the surface. This isn't about playing games. It's about preserving a part of yourself. Silence creates gaps that intrigue, prompting others to ask themselves questions like, why haven't they mentioned that? What are they thinking? What comes next? It's this curiosity that keeps people engaged and invested. You become someone they can't entirely decipher, and that sense of mystery is captivating. Another dimension of silence's allure is found in not always being readily available. When you don't respond immediately, when you occasionally leave conversations hanging, it stirs their thoughts, gives them space to ponder and anticipate your next move, building a tension that fuels attraction. Stoicism encourages us to act with intention, valuing our words and actions. Sometimes saying less can be more powerful than filling every silence. By withholding, you maintain control over what others know about you, leaving them intrigued and wanting more. So next time you feel the urge to explain or fill the quiet, remember, mystery is magnetic. Let your silence speak and watch how it draws them closer, keeping them curious and engaged. Number 6, use silence to break patterns. Let's explore how silence can disrupt established patterns, an often overlooked yet powerful way to shift dynamics within a relationship. Relationships, whether fresh or long-standing, tend to fall into repetitive cycles, whether it's habitual arguments, recurring emotional responses, or even routine interactions. When caught in these loops, the relationship can stagnate or even turn toxic. This is where silence comes in. Silence can serve as a disruptor, completely resetting the energy between you and the other person. Imagine you're in a relationship, and each time a disagreement arises, the same argument unfolds. Perhaps they make a critical remark, and you instinctively become defensive, or you're always the one smoothing things over, even when it's not your responsibility. But you both know how the script will play out, and it leaves you both weary and resentful. So this pattern is harmful, and each time you react as expected, you reinforce it. But what if, instead of reacting, you stayed silent? In Stoic philosophy, mastering one's reactions is essential. By not responding in the anticipated way, you break the cycle instantly. If they expect you to defend yourself or escalate the argument, your silence catches them off guard, prompting them to question the familiar pattern and often halting the argument altogether. Silence, in this context, becomes a tool of control, not to manipulate but to protect your peace and prevent escalation. By choosing silence, you're not ignoring the issue, you're creating space. Space to cool down, to reflect, and to prevent the interaction from spiraling into negativity. When you refrain from reacting, you allow the other person to confront their behavior without the fuel of your response. They're left to examine their actions without the usual emotional interplay, often leading to genuine self-reflection. Silence can also break patterns in daily communication. If you're always the one initiating, keeping the conversation alive, or providing emotional support, it can create an imbalance. By withdrawing slightly and letting silence settle, you invite the other person to meet you halfway. They'll notice when you're not doing all the work, which can encourage a shift toward mutual effort and balance. Using silence to break patterns isn't about avoiding communication or dodging issues. It's about stepping back to disrupt unproductive cycles, giving both parties the chance to reflect, and fostering a space for healthier dynamics. In this space, healthier communication can emerge. The tension that silence introduces isn't negative, it's constructive. disrupts habitual reactions, creating room for fresh ways of relating. So next time you find yourself trapped in a toxic cycle or locked in a heated argument, consider a different approach. Use silence to break the pattern, to allow for reflection, and to regain mastery over your emotional responses. Silence can be the reset button, shifting the relationship from a state of conflict or imbalance to one of calm and mutual understanding. Number 7, the silence of emotional control. Let's explore the power of emotional control through silence, one of the most transformative tools in any relationship. Emotional control is foundational in Stoic philosophy, distinguishing those who react impulsively from those who command respect. In relationships, the individual who can master their emotions, who remains composed, calm, and silent in chaotic moments, holds a unique and potent form of influence. Imagine this: you're in the middle of an intense situation. Perhaps your partner or someone close to you says something hurtful or challenges you in a way that stirs up strong emotion. Most people, when faced with such pressure, react instantly. They lash out, defend, or try to prove themselves. But this is precisely what the other person expects, and it hands them control over your emotional state. By reacting on impulse, you relinquish your power. Now imagine the opposite response. You remain silent. You don't react. You refrain from immediately defending yourself or escalating the situation. Instead, you breathe and let the moment unfold without a word. This silence is a testament to your emotional control. It signals that you cannot be easily provoked, that you aren't a slave to your emotions, and that you can stay grounded even in high-stress moments. This silence carries an unspoken message: you're unshakable. Number 8, practical application of silence. When you exercise emotional control through silence, you reshape the dynamics, removing the other's ability to manipulate the situation. They're left in their own emotional sphere, and without your reactive energy to fuel the conflict, they are compelled to face their own behavior. In this context, silence isn't avoidance, it's an assertion of your strength, ensuring the situation doesn't dictate your actions. So a core principle of Stoicism is that we hold responsibility only for our own actions and responses, not for the actions of others. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Emotional control through silence embodies this truth. You're not attempting to control the other person, instead you're exercising full command over your response. In relationships, this level of control is magnetic, as it communicates both confidence and self-respect. When you resist reacting to provocations and stand firm in your silence, it forces the other person to recognize that they cannot unsettle you. This realization can be profoundly disarming, especially for those who are accustomed to eliciting emotional responses from others. So next time emotions rise within, pause and embrace the strength in silence. Remember, silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom in action. By choosing calm over reaction, you project confidence, self-respect, and emotional depth. Silence creates space for introspection and allows you to influence without words, transforming your presence in any relationship. Whether you're seeking to rebuild a connection or inspire intrigue, silence is a tool of empowerment and authenticity. Ready to embrace this timeless power? Tap the like button and comment below with "Silence I is my ancient power." Together with Beacon of Ancient Insights, let's rediscover and harness this profound, quiet strength.